Analysis cards have been designed after 15 years of study on the crop circle phenomenon, not only in Britain but elsewhere as well. And you have to understand that in order to understand how the analysis cards work, you have to understand, first of all, we live in a 3D world. So there are three different types of energies that exist in the 3D cycle. And to convert those energies into, say, a mathematical state, we give them an identity of what we call the integer series, the 3 series and the 6 series. Now the 3 series and the 6 series are power cycles, they're energy cycles. The integer series is like the isolating barrier between these two energy cycles, so they don't end up clashing and virtually wiping themselves out. So the 3D energy is very carefully balanced. Now air, earth and water are linked to all of this. So when we're on this planet looking at the different elements, they're all in a phase and they cycle in that phase. Every 9 days throughout every month it recycles again. So you get the first 9 days, then you get another cycle over the next 9 days, and then you get the same cycle again over the next 9 days. So you get 3 cycles repeated. First is the shadow, then the isolator, and then you've got what we call the high energy cycle. Now when a pattern comes down, you work out its geometric matrix, and that's done through measurements. And then you're using a calculation which was discovered in Egypt when we did research there quite a number of years ago, and we found a mathematical way, I should say, of working out the harmonics of geometric design. So once we did that, we were able to identify what pattern was working with what cycle. Now the interesting part here is when the analysis cards get used, you find that if you get groups of 8 or 16 different patterns, they affect humanity. They also affect different other elements out there, from water through to animals, etc. Even a single line drawing can affect an object or an item like water over a 24-hour period. You get, say, 2 crystal clusters. You take a photograph through an electron microscope of the actual crystalline structure of the crystal. Then you sit one on the line drawing of a particular pattern that's turned up. It's just a flat line drawing on a piece of paper. And then you get another crystal cluster and you sit on the bench about a foot away. Go back 24 hours later and retake the photo through the microscope, and you find that the crystalline structure of the one that's sitting on the line drawing has changed, whereas the one that's just sitting on the bench a foot away has not. That's still the same. Now the line drawings themselves, the analysis cards that have these line drawings, they affect objects or items much like a sacred chant does. Like, for instance, if a Buddhist goes to a lake and he does an old chant and the lake is polluted, after the chant, if you test the water again 24 hours later, it'll be cleaner than it was. Well, these old sacred chants are a collection of words formulated from groups of letters. And remember, each letter is a geometric shape. We've interpreted the shape of the letter in the forms of words, and those letters form specific words. So words carry power. I mean, even in ancient mythology times in Egypt, Thoth had the ability to compel matter into form using words of power. Well, these geometric symbols are also a language. Now, alien spacecraft, for instance, have been seen where you've got geometric designs on the side of the hulls of the craft. Even drones have seen these same types of symbols. One of the things to remember is when they first discovered the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, they just looked at them as pictures. They didn't realize it was a language. Now, when you look at geometry or geometric shape, that's also a language, especially if it's under some other influence outside of humanity, in other words, alien of origin. So what you're dealing with is in the crop designs is when you get groups of 8 of them, say in a group of these analysis cards, and they're all laid out in different sets. Each set has a specific use because we've been able to work out through what we call a compatible table that we've developed and discovered that specific patterns work in combination with others. So it's like a program. So each individual design has part of a program, but it won't work properly unless other patterns also have links to that same program. So when you get groups of them together, you end up with the whole program. More complex ones, of course, then you're dealing with 16 in a group where they actually create a more complex program. Now, there's evidence also that alien artifacts have been discovered by governments both in the US and Britain, where these alien artifacts have specific shapes with symbols on them, and they won't work unless the other shapes are within the same sphere of influence of a major energy field. Then they all come together, bond together, and the whole device works. So you're dealing with programmable language in geometric form. That's basically what we're looking at. And that's geometric. As far as genetics are concerned, it also links into genetics, because even cells in a genetic structure carry certain types of geometric imprints. You look at molecular structures of different molecules, carbon, silica, etc. You see certain design formations within the actual structure of the actual molecules and the way everything's arranged. So you're dealing with a geometric foundation system that interacts with everything that exists on the planet. So these analysis cards are just the beginning of approaching a system or a language, programmable language, that uses geometric form as its basis. So this is why we now are looking at selling these sets so that people can get to use them. Now we even sell them separately as individual cards, so if you want to just collect them, that's fine. If you want to buy the sets, then they're individually listed, from air to earth to water, air, earth, water, water, earth, etc. There's different combinations, and they all have a different use, and they're all explained. So analysis cards is only the beginning. They're line drawings, and on the back of the card it's got an interpretation of what the harmonic is, what its use is, what type it is, etc., and any other relevant information we may have found about it. Now, remembering that the line drawings are actually recorded directly off the original pattern. Now, people have been known to go into some of these original patterns just after they've been formed and suddenly find themselves alleviated of different types of pain. In some cases, Parkinson's has been affected as well, where people have gone in, not had a Parkinson's experience while they've been in there, and also not for 48 hours after. So there's a power at work and a harnessing at work that the brain identifies and links into the different cycles that exist within each individual pattern. Now, you've got to remember that shape and architecture is also tied into geometric aspects of this. So if you look at buildings, you look at different designs of buildings, every shape that you generate harnesses a certain type of energy. It goes back to the early days when they were doing the pyramids with the razor blades, if everybody remembers that. But we've now gone further with this, where we've actually discovered that the different shapes that exist affect everything around you, even down to the shapes of the house that you live in, the office that you work in, the high-rise, the libraries, the shops, etc. Every single thing that has shape harnesses energy and magnifies it. Whether it's detrimental or not will depend on the type of shape it is. So in some cases, you go in feeling better than what you did when you were outside. In other buildings, you'll walk in, feel totally uncomfortable and can't stand it and want to get out. Well, that's the dynamic energy that exists within the shape of the structure that you've just entered. So therefore, you have to understand what's actually taking place. Now, there's no such thing as bad energy. All energy is positive. What's happening is each individual human has what we call a frequency range variable maximum. This is a brain frequency that you operate on, and your brain has the ability to tune in to different wavelengths, but it has what we call a peak cycle. It can't go beyond a certain amount because your ability, your education, your development has a certain limit to it. So everybody's different. So some people will go into a building and feel bad, while others will go in and feel okay. So there are going to be variations in whoever's doing it. So you've got to understand that energy is interactive on your brain because your brain's linking into the energy that exists within the space.